I'm GM Blue, a GM player on the NA region, and I'm here to walk you through the best legends for patch 13.13b. Now, Riot, in their attempt to nerf Draven, and they successfully did that, also caused some collateral damage to other legends and made them a lot worse than they already were. And also, some of the legends that were less viable before because they were getting suppressed by Draven have become a lot better, assuming their augments were not changed at all. So in S tier, we still have Ezreal. Nothing was changed about any of his augments, and he was already in S tier before, so he's still there now. But joining him is Vladimir. And that might come as a surprise because in the last tier list, Vladimir was all the way down in C tier, and nothing has changed about any of his different augments. So we'll talk about why he's all the way up in S tier now, a little bit later in the video. Sol is down in C tier because they nerfed his 3-2 augment. Bard is in C tier. Caitlyn in D tier because she got hit pretty hard from collateral damage. Draven. They nerfed him really hard. He's probably the worst legend in the game now. Lee Sin is in C tier, Master Yi in B, Ornn in A, Pengu in B, arguably C. Poro is in B tier. Tahm Kench also got hit from collateral damage in D tier. Twisted Fate in C. Nerf is arguably high B or low A. I'm going to put him in A. And then Veigar, arguably high B, low A, but I'm going to put him in B tier. Now, just like my last tier list, this is almost exclusively determined from stats, although there's some subjective analysis, which we'll talk about later in the video when I talk about each of the legends individually. So I gathered the stats for each of the different legends at different stages of the game, multiplied it by the probability of getting different types of augments at each stage of the game in order to bada bing, bada boom, get the expected value for each legend based on the augments that they provide. Let me zoom in here so you can see this on mobile. So Ezreal, based on the stats, is the best legend, and based on the stats, unfortunately, Draven is really bad. He's almost at a 5.0 expected average or expected value across all of his different augments, which is pretty bad. I even looked at Plat Plus, and you can see mostly similar results here. There might be minor shifts here and there, but Ezreal's still the best. And now Draven is the second to worst legend, and Tahm Kench is actually the worst legend. But we're going to focus on Diamond Plus. Just know there are some slight modifications with Plat Plus, but for the most part, these stats stay the same. So let's talk about the changes for Ezreal. So none of his actual augments changed, but there is a major shift that happens. Before, on 2-1 and 3-2, all of his augments were good. That's still true now. But now, his 4-2 augment is also good. And I suspect the reason for this is because rolling for days before everybody was taking it, they were hitting stage 5 and stage 6 boards in stage 4. And so something like Well-Earned Comforts was just not strong enough to have you keep pace with the rest of the lobby. And so now it's a lot stronger now that it's not getting suppressed by Draven. So Ezreal sort of got an indirect buff as a result of us shifting out of the Draven meta. Now, speaking of indirect buffs, that's pretty much the whole reason that Vladimir is now in S tier. So at the end of PBE, before the set even went live, Vladimir was the best legend. And Emily Wang hosted a PBE tournament towards the very end, and what a couple of players decided to do was force Vladimir into Azir. Well, guess what? In patch 13.13b, Azir is the best or one of the best for cost. And so now what you see happening a lot is you see people taking Battle Ready into Ascension. These are Vladimir augments, and they're playing Azir 79% of the time with this augment combination. Instead of playing the 7 Shurima variant that was very common on the PBE, you're finding that a lot of people are playing the 4 strategist Lux dual carry version of the board. Although you can obviously still play 7 Shurima as well if you get, say, a Shurima spat, and you probably are going to replace one of these augments maybe to get that Shurima spat in some cases. But yeah, Vladimir, the main thing of note here is that he's mostly for being played with Azir. However, Azir is a very dominant part of the meta right now, so if you just want to go 20 out of 20 Azir and get some pretty good stats by just taking all of Vladimir's augments, you can pretty much do that just like people were doing on the PBE with great success. So that's something you might want to try out. Ornn, same spot as he was in before. 2-1 augment is good, 3-2 augment is good, 4-2 augment is good. There is not a single augment that Ornn offers that's bad. The only reason he's in A tier and not S tier is because his augments are slightly worse than Ezreal's. Okay, but otherwise, Ornn is quite strong. One thing I'm noticing about this patch in general is that augments that give you items are performing quite well. And I think part of the reason for that is some of the best comps are playing 2 to 3 carries. So if you're trying to itemize 2 to 3 carries plus a tank, all of these different items actually are pretty valuable. One thing I'll note about Ornn is that all of his items are pretty balanced, so you should really probably just pick whatever Ornn item best matches your board. But I will note that Trickster's Glass seems to be pretty good right now, as well as I believe Eternal Winter I think is actually still pretty good as well. So Ornn doing quite well. Urf, the main thing about Urf is that his 3-2 and 4-2 augments are pretty good. They're all item augments, what a surprise. And his 2-1 augments have improved a little bit from last patch, where I think people are starting to realize what emblems are good, what they should be tailoring before, what are the best boards to tailor for those augments, or those emblems rather. So Urf, pretty good overall, but in my opinion, he's kind of just like a worse Ezreal. But he does have an identity. If you really like taking Ancient Archives and playing towards these like +1 emblem boards, then Urf might be for you. Okay, Master Yi and Veigar, I'm going to combine these two together because they're basically like different versions of Vladimir, where Master Yi is kind of focused on attack speed, Veigar is focused on, you know, AP crit, that sort of thing. One note I'll make about Veigar is that I think, number one, Jeweled Lotus is just not that good of an augment, but also I think there was some discussion during 13.13 that the Veigar versions of Jeweled Lotus were not properly buffed from 13.12. So if this is the case, you really don't want to take Jeweled Lotus. Generally, you were not taking it anyway. It's really just his 3-2 and 4-2 augments that are quite good. And again, I kind of feel like he's probably just a worst Vladimir, so hence why he's in B tier. Okay, with Pengu, something interesting that I noticed in the stats here is that his Prismatic, Tiniest Titan, for some reason, has really good stats. This is Diamond Plus, but I also looked at Plat Plus, and his stats are pretty good there as well. I think this might just be because we don't have enough data yet. We're only 1 day into the patch. So this will probably change as time goes on, because outside of this one augment, all of his augments are like completely average to like below average for the most part. So again, I still don't really like Pengu that much, but I did want to note that this Prismatic on 2-1 seems pretty good based on the stats. And if that's the case, then something like the University Portal is very good for Pengu. Be interesting to see if that actually stays true or not. Poro, same exact thing as before. You're getting an average silver, average gold, average prismatic. So he's not really anything, he's going to average around a 4.5 most of the time. But on the 3-2 and 4-2 augments, it's tailored to your board a little bit more. So it might be a little bit better than a 4.5. I don't know if that really offsets the strength you're getting from a guaranteed good augment like you're getting with Ezreal, Vladimir, and Ornn, for example. Sol. So Sol got nerfed on his 3-2 augment, unfortunately, and as a result of that, I think he's quite bad now. 3-2 with knowledge download is like a 4.7 to a 4.8 Diamond Plus, and then 4.6 to 4.7 in Plat Plus. So I think regardless, Sol is kind of, he's fallen off a little bit. I do see some people that are higher ranked than me ranking Sol a little bit higher at like B tier. But generally speaking, I don't think he's very good based on the stats and the knowledge download nerf. Bard, the main thing of note here is that his only good augment is on 3-2, which is the small, medium, and large forge, which Ornn also has while having better 2-1 augments and 4-2 augments rather. So I don't think there's any reason to take Bard because he's just the worst Ornn. His 2-1 augments and his 4-2 augment in particular is just awful. So generally speaking, I don't recommend taking Bard. If you like him, just go with Ornn instead, for the most part. Lee Sin. So the thing with Lee Sin, the reason he's up from the prior tier list is that without Draven suppressing the meta, believe it or not, Tristana has kind of come back. The one-trick challenger player, Aqua, that was doing nothing but playing Tristana 20 out of 20, he played Tristana during the Draven patch, and it did not perform that well. He was bot 4ing all the time. But he played Tristana after the B patch, and he found that he was top 4ing like 70% plus of the time. So if you just want a one-trick Tristana, you can take Lee Sin and just one-trick Tristana, and it's still quite good. So that's one thing I will note here is that Lee Sin is very playable if you wanted one trick, a reroll comp like Tristana still seems to be quite good. TF, same thing as my last video where I don't think the best comps for him have been discovered yet. Really, you're looking for comps that have specific item combinations that enable the comp to come online. Sort of like Garen, where you needed a lot of Zeeks and you needed specific items on Garen to make it work. So until those comps get discovered, I think TF will stay in C tier for higher elo, and for lower elo, we're talking like gold here, he's probably like B or A tier, because just guaranteeing that you get this is probably going to make you stronger than a lot of players in those lobbies. So I will note that he might be a little bit stronger in lower elo. Now Caitlyn here, Caitlyn is a champion or legend that unfortunately got hit really hard from collateral damage. So knowledge download, we talked about that getting nerfed. And then because they nerfed Draven with rolling for days, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, 2 of Caitlyn's augments got nerfed as collateral damage. And then her 2-1 augment, which is her identity, is not very strong in the first place. It's even weaker here if you look at Diamond Plus. So yeah, unfortunately, Caitlyn pretty bad now as a result of nerfs to other legends. And then Draven here, I don't really have to say much here. They nerfed every single one of his augments. The only one that's takeable of any of the things that he offers is his silver on 2-1. Everything else is averaging between a 4.9 and a 5.1, which is it's like abysmal. It's untakeable. I would never play Draven. He's awful right now. In a similar boat is actually Tahm Kench. So when they nerfed Draven with balanced budget on 3-2, they also nerfed Tahm Kench. And then for some reason, they also decided to nerf Money, which was an augment that was completely balanced in the last patch. And I think they nerfed it because they didn't want to have a similar meta where people had, stage 5 and stage 6 boards and stage 4. But that's the whole point of econ augments. That's the whole playstyle of something like Tahm Kench, is that you want to play one stage ahead because you're behind on combat augments. So I don't really know why they nerfed this, but as a result of that, unfortunately, Tahm Kench also, I would say, almost unplayable in high elo, probably still fine in low elo, but unfortunately, yeah, he's feeling the effects of those nerfs for those other legends. But that's it. I hope this tier list helped you in some way in terms of determining what's the best legend for you to play, and best of luck with your climb.